Hi everybody, I'm Nicole Lamartine and welcome to the Choral Eye. Today we are talking about how to create the most beautiful choral tone. So, I believe that the foundation of creating beautiful choral tone is to know what is fundamental. And I believe the body is fundamental. Our bodies are our instruments. So first and foremost, they've got to be loose and engaged and full of intent. I believe also that the breath is the foundation. When our breath through our body is energized, our choral tone will be energized. And I also believe that every vocal sound then can have purpose and meaning. So, beautiful choral tone can be described as easy, free, resonant, buoyant, matched, vibrant, focused, and energetic. And I'm sure you have your own list of adjectives to add to this, but this is a good place to start. So the foundations of singing technique begin with our idea of breath, phonation, creation of sound, the way we shape our vowels through the vocal tract, registration, how we use our heavy and light mechanism, resonance, how we amplify our sound, and other things. Today we'll focus primarily on registration and resonance. So a little review here. To energize the breath, think of it as low and slow. Inhale through the vowel that you will then sing. I like to tell my students to exhale with warm air, and they can feel that on their hands. And then, of course, breathing into the lowest part of your back, engaging all of that space in the intercostals and lungs. Phonation, of course, is the process of making sound. And beautiful phonation is really the balance of the air energy to the amount of sound that we're making. How close are our vocal folds? Are they full of pressure? Are they not full of pressure? It's the balance of air to voice. And of course, in the last video, we focused on vowels, and there were vowel truths, that vowels carry the sound, and the vowels should be unified in a choral ensemble, or else we'll never feel unified as an ensemble. So here is the meat of it. Choral tone relies on the best practices of the individual. Every single person who brings their sound to the ensemble needs to bring the best sound and the most informed sound that they can. So these three descriptors come from my friend Dr. D. And she says spacious, high, and forward is what we should always be striving towards in terms of how we create our vocal sound. So spacious in terms of the sound. Spacious, the phonation space, creating space in your face. If your mouth isn't open, the sound, the vowels can't travel out of it. Spacious. High, placed high in your resonant space, amplifying the sounds naturally through where we are directing the sound waves in our body. And then, of course, forward, propelled always with breath energy that is vibrant and engaged. So keep in mind, as we're talking about choral tone, that vocal tone always affects intonation. Intonation is tuning. So the more we understand how to create a vocal tone, the more we have a chance to be in tune by ourselves, in our section, and of course within the ensemble. Keep in mind too that tenor and bass voices have different needs in terms of their vocal development than sopranos and altos. So what is registration? I think of registration as being really three things. The first is the shifting of the gears. We talk about chest voice and head voice. Chest voice is the heavy mechanism. It's the thyroarytenoid muscle. It's the basic muscle of the vocal folds that we talk about. You can do a simple check here. If you put your hand here and you speak in your regular speaking voice, you might feel it vibrate here. If you do a vocal sigh down into your lowest register, ooh, you might feel it vibrating in your chest. That's why it's commonly called the chest voice. When we sing in the head voice, ooh, it's usually the higher tones, and usually in a voice in which we do not spend our normal time speaking. I do not speak up here, that is my head voice. I speak normally in my chest voice or my mixed voice. So shifting the gears from your head voice, the light mechanism, or the cricothyroid muscle, to the thyroretinoid-dominated chest voice. Obviously, the thyroretinoid muscle, the register in which we speak most of the time, that's obviously more strong because we spend more time making sound with that mechanism. And so we have to strengthen the head voice and then learn how to balance the weight as we go through our registers. The next idea is the use of weight. We talk about the chest voice as being a heavier mechanism. It's easier to sing in our chest voice because it's most familiar. So now we have to strengthen the head voice and allow the balance to come through as we're singing up and down through our range. And of course, again, it's the balance of the head and chest voice and all of the little registers in between. Okay, so how do we deal with registration? One thing I'd like to offer to you is called semioccluded phonation. Semioccluded simply means semi-closed, somewhat closed. And so semioccluded phonation usually begins with a straw. This is a metal straw that I bought because I like to reuse it. They come in different diameters, and of course you can do it with a plastic straw as well. But singing through the straw creates a different sensation in the voice so that you understand the perfect balance of air to voice in your phonation. So I like to start with just some slides. When you do this for the first time, you might feel a click or a stop as you're going through. That's the shift of register. And so when you feel that little shift or click, go more slowly and experiment with using more air or less air. This is a great tool. The next idea in creating a sense of unified registration is bringing the top down, bringing the head voice down all the time. We always want to strengthen that head voice and bring it down rather than taking the chest voice up. And of course, the breath stream is your lifeline. When you practice this semioccluded singing, you'll understand more keenly in your own body the breath flow that you need to get through all of your different registration shift points. And of course, choice notes. In each type of voice, there is an area of flip or some shifting of the musculature. We often call this the passaggio. It's an Italian term that means the passageway. We're going from one tunnel into a different tunnel. And of course, wide intervallic leaps. If we're going from low to high, we have to think of that lower note as being in the registration we need for the upper note. So let's see what we have here. For sopranos and altos, if this is middle C, these are our kind of shifting points. We've got one here at E and F. And then we have this whole area here, which I call the passaggio, where we have to make choices. So when we talk about choice notes in the registration, this is what we're talking about. So if we started, for example, on middle C and we sang a scale up, we need to get rid of some of the weight of the sound as we transition. So either on E or F, we'll feel that something needs to change or shift, and so we'll allow that shifting to happen into the head voice. I'll demonstrate. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. If I don't switch, it sounds like this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. And you can hear that I'm bringing my chest voice up into a place that might not be as comfortable singing. Now let's talk about this upper passaggio here. This is just a sticky place for most soprano and alto voices. So I like to think of making a shift at this B flat, which is my choice note, to go into a lighter mechanism to get through this area before I get into my absolute head voice up, G and above. So if we start on G, I'm actually going to make my choice on the B natural. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. If I don't make the choice, it sounds like this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. And you hear my voice wanting to crack because of the difference of registration. So always releasing the weight as we sing up the scale and knowing exactly which note we need to release on. For tenors and basses, we have a couple of places as we enter that upper passaggio, the crack, the break, where the voice Tarzans a little bit, right? So if this is middle C, in my experience, my tenors and basses have a switching point in this area, getting up into middle C. So I tell my tenors and basses that their choice note, their switching note, has to be A or B flat to get into a different place, that lighter mechanism, as they enter the lower part of the passaggio. The upper part of the passaggio usually is E, F, F sharp, or G, depending on the voice type. So in male voices, I've found that there are two more distinct places where we have to switch or make a choice. Now, of course, this upper passaggio is really where you'll hear the shift from upper head voice into the pure falsetto sound. For untrained voices, that switch into pure falsetto happens sometimes as low as this first transition point. Finding this mixed head voice area takes some time and training, and for tenors and basses especially, this area relies on the breath stream being consistent. So let's talk about resonance, which is the natural amplification of the sound waves. When we talk about voices, we oftentimes describe them as being on a spectrum. So here on the left-hand side, we've got words that describe a sound back here. On the right-hand side, we have descriptors of a sound that is here. I like to think of resonance as being on a meter. I can have a woofy or dark or throaty or back resonance, or I can have a bright, front, light, maybe even nasal or pingy resonance. So I'll demonstrate. And at the end there, I got all the way into my nose. But changing the resonance changes the way we hear the sound. So resonance can also be affected by a few things here. Space in your face. Again, if there's not enough space for the sound to come out of the body, we'll never hear it. So creating space through the release of the mandible. Always loose and elastic. Space can also be created in the velum. So the velum is the soft palate. If this is the bottom of my mouth, maybe my tongue and my bottom teeth, this is the roof of my mouth, and it can change shape. And so when we lift the soft palate, we create more space. Now, the problem is that we can't consciously always feel the lifting of the soft palate. So an exercise that starts with sh or b automatically lifts the soft palate so we can feel and start to hear what a lifted soft palate sounds like. Another idea is to engage the abdominal wall. This gives energy to the breath. When we have stronger breath energy, we will have stronger resonance because we are amplifying the sound waves with our breath energy. In terms of placing the sound, I like to think of the unicorn horn. This helps me to direct my vocal tone up and out. So it's not in my nose, it's above my nose and through time and space. Unicorn horn. Another successful thing that I've encountered in teaching my choirs is to hear the resonance as a group. And to do this, we listen with panels. So we put our hands up like this, not like this, but hands up like this, in the front of our ears, and we sing. And this engages a different listening awareness. We hear the resonance of the sounds around us more than we hear ourselves. So it creates a new listening experience that is based in resonance. So I hope that you've enjoyed this exploration of registration and resonance as the basis of beauty of choral tone. If you have any questions, please email me or direct message me on Facebook. And thank you for watching The Choral Eye.